call this short to order. Thank you. Mr. DeHay, welcome back.
All right, so Mr. Mayor, members of council, the first briefing will be Brent will join us actually in person this time. He'll give City Council an update as it relates to the General Assembly session and where things are in that process. So go ahead, Brent, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. So today we're going to give you our typical weekly update on General Assembly action. Today is the last day before crossover, or today is crossover, depending on how you look at it. But today is the deadline for each chamber to deal with the legislation that originated in this chamber and send it over to the other chamber. So it's a busy floor day. They're typically there late into the evening. The other big milestone to keep an eye on is this Sunday. Each chamber will release their version of the budget. So that's the next big thing that we'll be keeping an eye on. Once you kind of get each chamber's budget, you get through crossover, you get a better grasp of what's really going to kind of happen this legislative session and how things are kind of looking for you. So we'll know more hopefully by next Tuesday's briefing. Our legislative agenda, hopefully you guys saw some of my emails over the last few days. The Senate version of our 10-1 charter bill and the 10-1 general law has now passed both chambers and is headed to the governor. Typically takes a few days for them to do what they call the enrollment process. I'll be honest with you, I don't know exactly what it is they do in that process, but it takes them 3 or 4 days to do it. And then they send it off to the governor. Once she and her office officially receive it, she'll have 7 days to take action on that piece of legislation since it was passed with more than 7 days to go in the legislative session. So we should see some additional action on those 2 pieces of legislation here in the next week or so. Just today, our HB 393, the cancer screening for public safety bill, passed the House 97-0. I'll be giving you a few additional updates as things moved through the House chamber today. We had to turn in this presentation prior to that, so there'll be a few additional updates. So cancer screening bill passed the House today, 97-0, heads to the Senate. All the other stuff is similar to where we last talked. The only other one I want to highlight for you is HB 1049, the Menhaden fishing study. This bill has, we call it, has caught a fever. It was moving along, has been approved by the committee, but somewhere in between the committee and when it's supposed to go to the House floor, it ran into some trouble, and it sounds like it's not going to get a vote on the House floor as of right now. As I mentioned, today's the deadline. Something could change, but it was not on the House docket for today. And I checked in with a few folks, and I think they just basically told me it ran into some trouble, and it may have to come back next year. So one of those weird kind of procedural things where, you know, if you remember Schoolhouse Rock, how a bill becomes a law. They don't really mention this sort of thing in the song, but it happens fairly often. Last week, we talked about all of this legislation. We've called this our legislation with fiscal impact, things that we're working, mostly working against. And I'll highlight here just the first 4. The last 2, nothing's really changed on. But the collective bargaining legislation passed the House earlier today on a 61-35 vote. So the House version will now go to the Senate. The Senate version is currently being debated on the Senate floor. And so we'll get an update on that as it goes. Andrew's going to give me a thumbs up here in a little bit if it passed, or thumbs down if it didn't. The Senate version's a little different than the House version. So they'll have to rectify those differences as it moves through the process. So still a lot of action to take place here on collective bargaining. As you hopefully saw in my email on Friday, the legislation that would have eliminated sovereign immunity for local governments was continued to 2027. So that legislation is dead for now. And then I've highlighted this piece of legislation for you multiple times, and it's gone through multiple iterations. But HB 569 and SB 518 originally would have required all public works projects at the local government and at the state level to use prevailing wage in their procurement process. There were some amendments that took local governments out of the bills And then there were some amendments in the last week that now would require local governments to use prevailing wage if they are receiving state funds for the project, kind of mirroring how federal projects work. So that's where they are currently. The Senate version of that bill passed through the Senate 20 to 19, and the House version is on for final vote today and is likely going to head in the same direction. And then the last one I'll highlight here for you is SB 233. This was a piece of legislation that would have changed the funding formula that the state uses to provide funding for fire services for fire departments. The goal behind it was to try and provide additional funding for rural fire departments. Obviously, that would have reduced our funding. So the legislation has been changed into a study so they can look at trying to find ways to better fund rural fire departments. And then they'll bring back some recommendations for next year. We're bringing back I think it was my first or second briefing. We highlighted some major tax legislation that had been proposed for you all. Almost all of those pieces of legislation have failed to report out of committee. Some were continued to 2027, some were just voted down completely. The first box there highlights there were 3 or 4 pieces of legislation that were coming from Northern Virginia legislators that were geared to try and find additional transit funding for Metro. That's their biggest issue up there in Northern Virginia, and then would provide some additional money for transit agencies throughout the state as well. But it really was geared heavily towards additional taxes for the Northern Virginia region, and then to spend those additional tax dollars in the Northern Virginia region. All those pieces of legislation have failed to report out of committee. And then the second one I'll highlight here for you is HB 378. And Councilman Cummings, you had asked about this one early on. It would have imposed a net investment tax on individuals. That legislation was voted down unanimously in committee. I will say the only thing to always keep an eye on, especially when it comes to tax structure, is it's important to remember that at the state level, the budget supersedes the code. So they can always put any of this stuff into the state budget on a 2-year cycle and still implement it. And that happens, I won't say often, but it happens more often than they like to admit. You will always hear floor speeches of the legislators talking about how, we don't legislate through the budget. We don't put legislation that got voted down in committee. We don't put that into the budget. But the truth is that they do those things all the time. So again, Sunday's budget will be very telling, and we'll keep an eye on all of those items. All right, so we're going to continue each week. We've kind of brought you a chart here of legislation of interest. Few of these you've seen already. A couple of these are new. First one to highlight for you, and this one actually just went through a big change, but I had it on my chart already, but HB 1238 would have authorized localities to create some additional regulations around pet shops. This was a question that we actually got and did some research on earlier in the year from a couple of you council members had asked us a question. So I just want to highlight this for you. This legislation looks like it's headed towards passage, passed out of the House 5836, but they put a reenactment clause on it. So that means that it doesn't actually take effect until it passes again next year. So it's just a kind of a procedural process that it's going through. So this will not actually give us this authority this year, but it will bring it back next year. And if it passed again next year, then we would get some additional authority. Second one here to highlight for you is this interesting bill from Delegate Cliff Hayes, which would prohibit a local government from using a web domain that doesn't end in .gov. So that would include us, right? We're vbgov.com. Delegate Hayes believes that this is an important cybersecurity measure that local governments should, not just local governments, but all government bodies should undertake. The challenge with it is that obviously redoing all of our email addresses, marketing, website, anywhere we have vbgov.com printed is an expense on us. And while we haven't been able to really kind of get a grasp of what that expense would be, we do think it would be, it would be impactful. So we're keeping an eye on that legislation. It got got out of the first two committees by one single vote, and then out of the Appropriations Committee on a 15-7 vote, passed the House chamber today 54-43, and it's headed to the Senate. Next three bills here are e-bike related. I know that we all know this has been an issue for us here, big topic of conversation. So HB 343 has passed the House 7522. This would allow a locality to adopt an ordinance to require children 14 and under to wear a helmet on an e-scooter, a non-motorized scooter, or a motorized skateboard. Right now, we have that authority for bicycles, but not for those items. The second one, HB 1120, this is probably the most impactful one. This legislation would create a work group, a study group at the state level to look at a lot of the e-bike issues, similar to what we're doing here at the local level. That legislation passed 97-0 at the House, in the House, and heads to the Senate. And then you may recall one of my first briefings also, HB 269. This was a piece of legislation that would have heavily regulated e-bikes. I think I put in some of my emails, email updates. It was a bit of a mess in how they tried to do it. It basically created some new classes of e-bikes without taking out the old classes. It was just kind of, I don't know, it was a bit messy. So that legislation didn't go very far. And I think the study gave them a way to advance this issue without having to take a hard stance on anything. So that legislation did not pass. But all of these, Delegate Martinez, Delegate Singh, and Delegate Reed are all out of Loudoun County, and they're really at the forefront with us on this issue and working diligently to find some resolution on it as we are. All right, my last two slides here, just want to give you a quick update. There has been a lot of movement on speed camera legislation. There were probably a half dozen or more pieces of legislation on speed cameras introduced this year, doing a variety of things from providing some additional regulations to ending the programs altogether. The legislation that would have ended the programs altogether were defeated. Took a little bit of work, but that happened. And so we'll highlight a few things here for you. So the first box here, HB 684 and SB 59. This is an interesting piece of legislation that would require the Department of Criminal Justice Services to basically create like a training course for the people who review the photos, and then would expand the eligibility of the type of people who are eligible to review those photos. So right now you have to be a sworn police officer. This would expand that to be conservators of the peace or some sort of local government technician. But those folks would have to go take this course and be certified before they were allowed to do it. So could open it up and give us some more flexibility. So it's a good piece of legislation. The second one, HB 1330 from Delegate Siebold, would expand, would add two new kinds of cameras to local government portfolios. It would allow us to operate pedestrian crossing and stop sign monitoring cameras, but only within school crossing zones, highway work zones, and the high-risk speed corridors. I'll highlight a couple others here for you. SB 219 requires a second summons be issued. SB 221 would expand the hours school zones can be active. So right now, school zones are only active for a half an hour in the morning, a half an hour in the afternoon when schools are in session. This would expand that to an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. And then on the last slide here is really the big piece. This is kind of the, I don't know, omnibus speed camera legislation. As you can see, there are a bunch of changes being made here. Delegate Delaney out of Fairfax County has really taken on a leadership role on this issue, and we've been working closely with her to ensure that this legislation is workable for local governments and provides the right protections that I think everybody believes should be in place. So this legislation directs the Virginia Supreme Court to establish a uniform summons to be used for photo speed enforcement violations. That's a big step forward in making sure, and it requires that summons to include information to contest and how to pay the civil violation, opportunities to inspect the photo and to make sure that the device had been calibrated properly and to be able to get proof that the device had been calibrated properly. Requires 2 conspicuous signs be placed within 1,000 feet of the camera. Right now, I think it only requires 1, and one of those 2 signs has to be the type of sign that shows you how fast you're going. Um, a good warning and protection system there. Uh, Restricts how, so once the locality collects the fee, you remember last year, there was a very long debate on whether the fees that are collected should go to the state or should remain with the locality. We've been able to ensure that the funds stay with the locality, but the protection is that those funds have to be spent on safety improvements for traffic safety, speed management, bicycle and pedestrian safety, um, and that the funds have to be prioritized in areas where the photo speed enforcement cameras are first before they can be used in any other area. Eliminates the ability of vendors to collect fees. That was a big issue for the legislators. Limits the fees to no more than 5%, and the cost of postage. And let's see what else here. As I think I mentioned in one of the first bullets, it includes a new requirement for vendors to provide calibration data upon request. And if the vendor does not provide that within, I think it's a 10-day time frame, the vendor can be fined $1,000. And there are also some new reporting requirements that each locality would have to abide by. There had been a piece in HB 1220 that would have allowed local governments to be sued and would have pierced that sovereign immunity shield, but amendments have been made on the floor to remove that at this point. So that's a big win for us as well. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to turn it back over to you for any questions or discussion.
Okay, let me get started. Where do we stand with right to work?
The right to work legislation in the Senate was never docketed in committee, so that legislation is no longer under consideration. The local governing collective bargaining legislation, they're still debating it. Oh, they vote, yeah. So the Senate version has now passed the Senate, House version has passed the House, and so they'll go across to the other chambers now for further discussion. And
Let me express a frustration, and I know this is controversial, and I know we're not in full accord on this, but when 9 mayors put partisanship aside and say that having collective bargaining imposed on us is the right way to go, I'm appalled by that. Do you realize, okay, let me put it this way, and let me vent, okay? I don't do it that often. But I teach human resources on the management level, and we talk about what unions do to people. Okay, there was a time when unions were necessary, because of labor, problems and everything, but they're no longer necessary. Let me just say, I was talking to a fellow mayor from the peninsula at an event the other night, and he understands that they want to impose this on us because they want to make sure that we treat our employees well. But let me tell you something. Don't forget, we compete against each other as cities, and we also compete with the private sector. You better believe we treat our people well. And when we had public safety come to us last year and needed something, we did it without collective bargaining. And I think it's very frustrating. We were reasonable. Do a study on it to find out how it's going to impact the localities. And it's going to affect every locality from the smallest hamlet to the largest city. And we take a look at Fairfax. I'll bring it up again. I think it was 2024, they had a surplus of 254 million. After collective bargaining, recently, they're 300 million underwater. They had to impose a food tax they had to raise their mill rate almost 5 cents and 33 taken out of operations. We can't afford it. If we want to make Virginia Beach affordable, you can't impose another unfunded mandate on the municipalities. And that's exactly what it's going to do if it's not handed. I know I'm venting on a thing, but hopefully we get to a point where we can agree on something, without getting our cities and going into insolvency. So I said what I had to say. Anybody else at this point? Okay, Josh.
And I'm going to vent a little bit too on a different subject.
I'm sorry I started a trend here.
And this is actually two subjects. One is the Menhaden fishing study that you had mentioned ran into trouble. I can only guess what all that means. But from my perspective, I don't think that bill places any limits. It doesn't shut anybody down. It just simply asks for better data, transparency around industrial activity that has tremendous implications on our bay and on our coastal environment. And my guess is that there are some concerns from industry advocates and people who obviously, who are sensitive around employment issues and workforce issues. But when an industry resists even a study, it raises some serious questions about whether we're getting the full picture. So it is really disheartening to see that even just a simple study into the issue is getting resistance, and I think it's shameful. And then the other thing I wanted to speak on is the e-bike legislation. I just want to thank Councilmember Cummings and everybody else who's in staff who've put together the task force and who've been reviewing this information and coming to us with recommendations. I drove through a neighborhood yesterday. I won't say which one, just so I don't identify, but there were 3 kids, one of them laying in the middle of the street, hurt, because they were on one of these larger class 3 e-bikes. And this kid looked like he was no more than 13 years old, and he looked like he was on something that looked like a motorcycle. I don't know what can be done. I know we talked about it early on. I know we've had the task force. I think there were probably one or more of us who were ready to just ban those class 3 ones altogether. I know that's where I was at, but, and then get on to the work of evaluating the other classes. And I understand what kind of stresses that puts on our police and enforcement and everything. But these young kids are driving what essentially are motorcycles in our neighborhoods, through our schools, through our playgrounds, through our neighborhood streets. They're going 30, 40 miles an hour. Some of them don't have helmets on. Some of them even don't obey stop signs and other things. So this is a serious public safety crisis for us. And I don't know how we do better, but we have to.
Hey, Rosemary and Michael.
Can you bring us up to speed on some of the land use legislations? Because some of it was pretty onerous.
Yeah, hasn't been much change since my last briefing last week. There are probably 2 or 3 pieces of legislation in that realm that are problematic, including I think most problematic is this piece of legislation, they call it the Faith in Housing, that would allow any religious organization or nonprofit that by right to build multifamily housing on their property. We're working with the patrons to try and make it much more livable. Kathy and Carrie have been really helpful in providing some recommendations on that legislation. With crossover, we haven't been able to have many of those conversations. We did get an amendment that would exempt our Oceana and AQs challenges. So that was one step forward. We still got multiple steps to go there, but there hasn't been much change since last week on that. But we're continuing to work on those pieces of legislation, looking for areas where we can find compromise and make pieces of legislation that are mandates on local government at least more livable, and then continuing to fight areas where we just can't find compromise and hope to get legislation defeated. But There is just there is a large movement in this General Assembly to make I don't know, to get more houses built. And it's, the writing isn't quite on the wall yet, but we're moving in a direction on some of those issues that are challenging for local governments.
About the one on homelessness.
There was the legislation that would have impacted some of our existing ordinances. That legislation was rejected in committee, and so is no longer under consideration, but will be back again next year in some iteration.
Thank you.
And Michael and Cash.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I'd like to vent on a few things too.
Oh, God.
But for the
I'm sorry, Michael.
no, well, it's actually really amazing to imagine the type of overreach that I think is happening in the Virginia General Assembly during this session. And a lot of people who are paying attention are frustrated, have taken note, and are watching and are paying attention, and I hope the legislators in Richmond are too. I could opine on a variety of topics, but for the purposes of this discussion, I just want to offer some remarks to support what Councilmember Schulman said about the Menhaden study. It's equally as important as to what the legislators are doing as what they're not doing. And refusing to advance this study, in my view, is a breach of responsible stewardship of a global and internationally recognized sensitive environmental area of the Chesapeake Bay. Virginia Beach is a Chesapeake Bay community as well as an oceanfront community. And the industrial scale fishing that is occurring in the Chesapeake Bay for Menhaden to harvest those animals, process them in another part of Virginia by a company that I understand is Canadian owned, is having a direct impact on the people who live, visit, and recreate in Virginia Beach and on the Chesapeake Bay. And that includes people who visit our bayfront beaches and are forced to endure the impacts of fish spills, which have been known to occur repeatedly as a result of the industrial fishing. I'm talking about the essential role that Menhaden fish play into the Chesapeake Bay ecosystem. I'm talking about the degradation of of other fisheries, other types of animals that rely on Menhaden, and for the General Assembly not to even advance a study to better understand what's happening there. And I was proud to be one of the council members who sought to advance this, and for the first time ever, as far as I know, as part of our legislative agenda, and the council rallied around this topic. It should be non-controversial. We need to understand the impact of the industrial scale fishing that is occurring in the Chesapeake Bay, in and around the Virginia Beach shoreline, and how it's impacting our environment and how it's impacting our ability to lead the quality of life that we expect in Virginia Beach, whether that's visiting the beach or being on the bay fishing and anywhere in between. I'm very disappointed that I think you were very gracious. I actually would like to know what happened. And that's one aspect I would like, what actually did happen?
We'll gather more information. It literally happened this morning, and as I was texting with a couple folks, and
I can
we'll get
appreciate
more
your
information.
position and I, but, I'm not saying this to question the way you reported it, because you reported it accurately, but maybe give me some information to be more specific about, because I don't want to gloss over it by saying, well, it got caught up. It didn't just get caught up. There were special interests who intervened and applied leverage. That's how it got caught up. And we need to understand who is applying that leverage, how, and why. And any information you could provide would be beneficial to me, because it's important. I know that there are council members here who serve districts that are directly adjacent to the Chesapeake Bay, and I don't, but the Chesapeake Bay watershed includes all of Virginia Beach in some form or another. My neighbors have boats and they go out onto the Chesapeake Bay and they do all different types of fishing. And all of this is linked to the menhaden, which is an essential connector species. And I'm actually amazed that we can't even advance a study about it. It's highly disappointing.
Yes, sir, Councilman. We will gather some additional intel on that and report back to you on that. And there are a couple other pieces of legislation dealing with the health of the bay. We'll pull some of that for you as well. I think is some progress. Well, hopefully there will be some progress made this year. I will also say, there's still the budget. We'll see if there's any money in there for a study. The request for this study was most of these sort of studies are in the tens of thousands of dollars range. This one was in the millions of dollars in request. Sometimes that complicates things to the General Assembly. Things that cost money are always harder to get past. But I share your disappointment, and especially having come out of committee and headed to the floor with the momentum we had, I was surprised and disappointed this morning as well.
Well, I'll put a finer point on it. The leadership in Richmond today has advanced themselves as the more responsible stewards of the environment. That's the political messaging that we have heard, and I don't think they're living up to that claim.
Okay, Cash.
So, thank you. And to put context with this, I don't have a vent, right?
You broke the chain.
Right? Peace, love. But this is important because with all of the pop-up smoke shops, vape shops, and I'm ready to have the cannabis bill to be approved by the governor, because this will give us some type of controls of what's happening in these businesses. And so for me, in my district and others, we see these shops just popping up, right? And I'm sure they went through the business protocols and business permit, but we as a locality can't attach ourselves to it to receive any financial taxation from their operation. And so you would think that that would be on the driving points of those who are our elected leaders in Richmond. Do you have an update on that?
Yes, sir. Yes, Councilman. So the cannabis legislation continues to progress. There is a House version and a Senate version. The Senate version, at my last check, and we'll have to go back and look at it again, but had not included some of the zoning authority for local governments that the House version that we preferred included. When we were working to get those inserted into the Senate version, I'll have to go back and double check to make sure that happened before it crossed over today. But all of that legislation continues to progress, and we'll continue to keep you guys up to date as major changes are made on those. But we all anticipate some sort of resolution on cannabis, a retail marketplace this year. And you never know, things fall apart, but that's certainly the progression that it's on currently. And there are some additional pieces of legislation dealing with some of the vape shops, which is kind of a different issue. We'll pull some of that stuff for you and send you some, if you're interested in that, send you some information there.
Yeah, I'm very much interested because we have to have some type of standardization of how these businesses operate in Virginia Beach. And if we don't set the parameter, they will.
Yes, sir.
Stacy.
On the e-bike situation, first, thank you for the recognition of the e-bike task force. So I have come to appreciate how complicated of an issue this is. And it's a very complicated issue to deal with at the local level, much less the state level. And to try to come up with parameters and solutions for the entire state of Virginia, which has very different populations, is an incredible task. And I would love to see the state legislation take the handcuffs off of the localities and let us deal with these e-bikes in a manner that's appropriate to our city. We have a boardwalk which no other city has. That needs to be dealt with in a manner that Richmond may not appreciate. We have, in one city, we have farms, we have neighborhoods, we have urban centers. And so, and I don't blame the state legislature for wanting to do a study of this, because this is a situation that has just exploded in the last year. I mean, I would say 2 years ago, you may have seen a bike here and there, you may have seen something, you go, what was that? Or, why is that kid riding a motorcycle on the sidewalk? But today, it's all day, every day. It has virtually exploded in the last 24 months, certainly in the last year. It's really gone over the top. So I hope they're expeditious in their study. I hope that they will let the localities deal with some of these issues that are appropriate to the localities. But this is something that I don't blame them for doing a study, because it's a complicated issue. But time is of the essence, because this is getting to be a larger and larger problem every day that it goes on. And so, as Councilman Schulman said, there are kids getting hurt every day on these things. They're causing accidents. And I just hope that they move forward and let us do what we need to do also.
Yes, sir, Mr. Councilman, and I'll have to go back and double check. I'm going to look at Walter over here, but I think the requirement is for them to conduct the study and have it done by November of this year, so that they can put, and he's giving me a thumbs up, for legislation to be introduced in next year's session. So that's as quickly as they can do it. So I think that's a positive. And also note that, as you mentioned, each locality is viewing this differently. And as I check in with my colleagues and friends who have similar jobs to mine, there are places that this is a top concern. And then there were actually other localities that were looking for ways to give away e-bikes to folks to help with transportation and traffic issues and deal with some of those final mile issues. And they ran into some stumbling blocks that they didn't believe they had the state authority to be allowed to do that. So certainly different viewpoints from different parts of the state. And I think, as usual, that points to the best decisions for most things, in my opinion, is done at the local level. And this is certainly amongst those.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, let's end on a positive note. And
I thought mine was positive.
yeah, let me just say that, let's just say this, once again, we're, Stacy, we're a Dillon Rule state, and that's it. And part of the process is that, we have a full-time city council and a part-time legislature. That's just the way it is. And Brent, how many thousands of bills do they get, this year?
This year, there were about 4,000 bills, studies, and resolutions. A lot of those are commending resolutions, like, somebody's 100th anniversary or something, but 4,000 of some form that we all had to sift through.
And that's packed into a couple months?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
60 days this year,
And,
including
I
weekends.
through adversity, find opportunity. We have the situation that, Stacy and everybody, we do get frustrated. We had our voting system changed on us. 6 localities had their voting time moved from May to November, and we found out about it after it happened. And the thing is, what really, really works is effective communication and relationships. And I just think it would be positive, behoove both not only our local delegation, but all the delegation, that we have the type of get-togethers or relationships that they understand the impact of what they're putting on us. And if I could use as an example, a number of years ago, back when I was the Centerville czar back then, and I used to work a lot, on panels and everything, medical panels, and I did a number of panels with a guy by the name of Senator Ralph Northam, and we got to know each other. We built a relationship, ideologically and philosophically. We had a lot of differences, But when he was governor and we were desperate to get the beaches open, we had a trust there and we got the beaches open. And the point I'm trying to make is that, right now, let's be honest, whether it be in the Beltway, whether it be in all the state halls and everywhere, politics is a contact blood sport these days. And right now, we are a divided nation. Let's say it up front. We are polarized and paralyzed. And I hate to say it, if you try to reach across the table to people, you're ostracized. That's just the nature of the thing that we have to change. And the thing is, if we can build those bridges, and like we did, I'll keep on bringing it back. The 7 mayors of the 757 came together in a very bipartisan way and say, what is good for our communities and how can we help each community thrive and survive as well as their own? And I think that's what we need. And, I appreciate the challenges that the delegates and senators have there. I mean, we think about 4,000 things going across the thing. How do you get a full story, whether it be the Manhattan fisheries or collective bargaining or anything, and get the whole, picture? And I think that's the challenge. But Brett, I just want to say thank you. I know you're our paid pinata up there. And I know, I tell you what, you must feel like Mel Gibson in the final scene of Braveheart. But, just keep on doing the work. But something, going forward, let's see what we can do a better job building the bridges. If you want to do a study on light rail, hey, bring us into the loop in the discussion. While you're crafting your legislation, this could be a win-win for everybody. But I'm just saying that, just having it hoisted upon us after, a referendum said we didn't want it. We got to have those conversations preemptively. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
All right, so Mr. Mayor, members of council, at the request, Mr. Mayor, of yourself and Councilmember Remick, Planning Department staff, Kathy Warren, Director of Planning, and also Carrie Bookholt, Deputy Director of Planning, will brief City Council on some of the customer service changes and their development review statistics.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. So today, first, I'd like to introduce, you all know already, but our Deputy Director, Carrie Bookholt, who will be with me today presenting. We are happy to bring you some good news today. We recently presented this information to the Resort Advisory Committee's Planning, Design, and Review Committee meeting, and thanking Councilmember Remick, who thought that it'd be a good idea to bring this information to you today to really show you what our reporting timelines look like. So just an overview on our presentation today. We're going to go over some of our newer customer service offerings and statistics. I'm going to talk about our development review process and provide our FY 2025 statistics and performance tracking. And then Carrie's going to go through our allotted timelines for reviews, our current statistics for site plans and building plans, and then we'll be here to take any questions. So since we moved back to campus in May of 2025, we modified and expanded our customer service offerings. Our customer service counter is open 5 days now. It is staffed with 2 full-time customer service positions and subject matter experts from our various divisions. We offer multiple methods of payment that can be done online at the counter without having to go anywhere else to pay. That's a huge improvement from past years. We also have a new phone system. This allows queuing for our customers. So if you call in and you're put on hold, it will immediately tell you you're number 4 in line. And so you'll know that someone will be helping you in the very near future. It allows us to collect a lot of data. So we're able to show who is calling in, why they are calling in, and then provide that information in our reports. And then it allows for better coordination within the department. So if someone calls into the zoning, but they really needed permits and inspections, it's easy for us to help navigate the system that way. For our FY '26 numbers, based on our customer visits, we had 5,268 customer visits to date. That's an average of 752 per month. We've already received 28,803 phone calls. That's an average of 4,114 calls per month. And our capture rate is 92.7% of those calls. So that doesn't mean that that small gap between 92.7 and 100 is that we lost those customers. In many cases, someone is hung up and then they'll call back at a later time. For an idea of our volume of projects and plans moving through our office, this data on the screen presents what we processed in FY '25. So we had 101 pre-submittal meetings held with staff, 450 discretionary applications processed by our staff and approved by respective boards or commissions such as the City Council, Chesapeake Bay Board of Zoning Appeals, or Planning Commission, to name a few. We had 2,655 submittals to the Development Services Division for our site plan review and related projects. 34,631 permits issued by our permits and inspection staff, with an accompanying just under 79,000 inspections. So back in 2020, and in response to concerns in the development community that plans and permits were taking too long to review and approve, City Manager Duhaney created a solutions-oriented, data-driven focus group called PermitStat to determine where the challenges were and how to improve our process. City leadership, planning, public utilities, and IT work together to collect data and put it into an understandable format so that we can show where our true review timelines are. Our PermitStat initiatives included data collection over 4 years, department coordination, hardware and software upgrades, efficiency in processes, and then, of course, our staffing improvements. So I will turn it over to Carrie to get into the detail, and then I'll be back.
Thanks, Kathy. Good afternoon, City Council. I will pick up here and dive into the details of what we're collecting for our site plan review and building plan review. We'll start with the Development Services Center. The Development Services Center, or DSC as you hear us call it all the time, really serves as the home base for site planning projects. Each project is assigned a project manager that is the point of contact for the development team as they move through our process. Site plans are routed through DSC. They're reviewed both in planning, but also we send them out to subject matter experts for the fire department or public works, traffic engineering, public utilities, etc. The maximum review times for site plans are mandated by the state. And you may remember last summer, there was some legislation passed that pinched those review times down that the state allots by 1/3. So for initial reviews, we used to have 60 days for an initial review of a site plan. That's been reduced to 40 days. Subsequent reviews used to be 45 days. They're now at 30 days. And it should be stated that these are calendar days, they're not business days. And if we miss this target, a project can be automatically assumed approved. So we have to stay on top of them and we can't miss them. In addition to the state mandated timelines, we also have an internal review policy that's generally less than the state. For site plans for commercial projects, we try to get those through in 28 days, subsequent reviews in 21 days. For single family or small scale residential projects like a duplex, we cut that by a week even more to route those through our office in 21 days on an initial review and 14 days, on a subsequent review. So our data that we've been collecting shows how we stack up. This chart is for last calendar year, so half of the year is under that new state legislation. And you can see that we're showing in 2025 calendar year, we approved 128 single-family projects. On average, that takes 2.8 cycles to get approved through our office. We transitioned or moved over into business days. So if you transpose what the state code would allow in calendar days to business days, those 2.8 cycles would be allowed to have 63.6 days of review time with our office, and we're pushing those out in 36.1 days. We also wanted to capture, because it's part of the story, how much time does the project spend in our office, and then how much time does it spend out of our hands? So we're able to capture how much time outside of our review process does the project spend, and that's 48.6 days for a single-family project. On average, from start to finish, 84.7 business days for a single-family project. The next line are for duplex projects. This is for a little bit larger of a project. They have different criteria that we have to review against. It's also for 2 single families on 1 lot that you might see in the north end of at the oceanfront or in Old Beach. We had 20 projects approved in 2025 with an average of 3.7 review cycles. The state code would allow 82.5 days for us to review, and we've gotten those approved in 60.6 days with staff time. 80 days are out of our hands for a total of 140.9 days. The last category is for a commercial site plan. This could be something as small as a half-acre, quarter-acre Starbucks to a hundreds of acres of an Amazon warehouse. This is really where things get technical, and there's a larger number of staff reviewing the plans and also reviewing to a higher advanced level. This is where stormwater modeling is mostly required. So you'll see a longer average review cycle of 4.6 review cycles for those 43 projects we approved in 2025. The state would allow us 100.2 days to complete those reviews. On average, we're pushing those out in 79 total days. And with our customer, those projects spend 111.1 days for a total of 190.1. Shifting the focus from site planning, which is everything outside of the building, grading, drainage, utilities, et cetera, to the building itself, we also need to know how are we stacking up in our permits and inspections division. The Permits and Inspections Division, they are responsible for administering the uniform statewide building code, both in plan review and in inspections. However, the code does not specify a maximum review timeline for building permits. We have internal policies set, and we break them into 4 categories. Commercial new buildings would be a brand new commercial structure. Those have an initial review with us for 30 days, and subsequent reviews, we cut that in half to 15. A commercial alteration or addition, you'll see there's quite a scope of that initial review, because that could be anything from a simple tenant switch swap at a shopping center to something like the place where the planning department is housed now in former City Hall. That permit was a commercial alterations permit, so that would be on the other side of the scale at a 30-day review timeline. Subsequent reviews are again cut in half between 10 and 15 days. The next category is residential new structures, brand new homes, or residential buildings. Initial reviews are set at a 30-day target policy, cut in half for subsequent reviews. And then residential alterations, once again, you'll see that sliding scope or sliding scale, since the projects can vary widely in scope from a small deck to a second-story addition. The chart copying the DSC information is for calendar year 2025. And so for that entire year, we've approved 27 new commercial structures. On average, it takes 2.6 cycles to get through. Our policy would allow us 36.5 days to review that, and Scott Steen's team is putting those out in 12 days. On average, that spends 22 days with our customers out of our hands for a total of 34.4 days. Commercial alterations, you'll see there's a much greater number of those alterations and additions permits. On average, those are 1.8 cycles. That helps us that some of those can be approved at our counter in the same day. The scope, the time, it just really is based on scope, how much time is allowed. But on average, we're reviewing those with 9.9 days, 13 days with our customer for a total of 22.9 days. Residential new buildings, new residential homes, 277 in last calendar year. 2.1 is the average review cycle. 30.1 day, or 30 days, 31 and a half days is what our policy would allow. And again, we're reviewing in 10.7 days on average. 15 days is spent with our customer out of our hands between cycles for a total days to approval of 26.1. And then our real bread and butter, our residential alteration permits. This is the deck, a driveway permit, a small addition on a home, but it could be a large one. We had 1,986 approved last calendar year with a 1.58 standard review cycles. Again, the timing can be varied on scope. We take about 4.3 days to review those. On average, 7.1 days are spent with our customer with a total time frame of 11.4 days.
Thank you. Good stuff.
So just briefly in closing, we just wanted to mention a couple of our ongoing tracking and provide you with some information. Again, our goal is to keep the public informed about future land use and development in the city. You may recall each month you get the land use report as part of your package. This is also provided on our webpage for the public to view. The information in here it provides you with permits issued and site plans approved. It provides details on pre-submittal meetings and discretionary applications submitted for that past month. It also has the upcoming Planning Commission agenda. The information that Carrie provided today with regard to our review times, that will actually go live tomorrow on our webpage for anyone that wants to review those timeframes and plan out their development accordingly. We continue to provide information with regard to review and approvals of site plans to the Process Improvement Committee. And then with our next Focused Action Plan, Initiative 2.20, we are continuing to pursue and explore ways to expedite review of attainable housing projects here in the city too, because we know that's a city council priority. So that's all we have today, and happy to take any questions.
Okay, before I get to Worth and Stacy, let me just say, since you came on board, I'll tell you, I have received, and I'm sure the manager has, significant positive feedback by overall improvements. It's a tough job, it's a demanding job, and without doubt, question or reservation, when you talk about all the stormwater regulations, that seems to be the major elephant in the phone booth that we are constantly dealing with. But I'll make another point at the end, Worth, and then Stacy.
Thanks, Mayor Dara and Ms. Warren and Ms. Bookholt. Thank you very much for the presentation, and Mr. City Manager as well for your focus on this, because you have improved dramatically, and I've heard that from many people in the community. I just want to make that statement a little bit more in a minute and then a question, but those are millions, and probably over, I don't know if there's a metric up there or somewhere about what dollar value that's invested in our city, that you are safeguarding consumer protection, what you're doing for the public. It's probably over $1 billion worth of value invested in a home's residence, commercial property. So it's not an easy process. So that leads to the question, you say the Development Services Center is home base. Because you have told me several times that it does take time to coordinate with other departments' input, and I think the public doesn't necessarily understand that, but you need public safety and public works and other. Can you speak to that? Because that does take time to coordinate.
Yes, so we're really the clearinghouse when these plans come in for approval. And so we coordinate and route these plans throughout various departments in the city. It can be 10 other departments, 20 departments, and we have to have them review these plans, provide comments so that they can come back to us. We put together that review letter to submit back to the applicant, and then we move forward from there. But yes, it takes a lot of coordination with other departments. It's not, a lot of people think it's just a planning department, but it's not.
Okay, Stacy?
Thank you. It's great, a lot of good information, and it's a nice warm, fuzzy feeling about what's happening at planning. It's my understanding that with the comprehensive plan, there needs to be a review of the zoning ordinances and the process. And that being the case, I believe it'd be helpful if the Process Improvement Steering Committee would work with staff to give recommendations and input. There's a lot of seasoned experience on that committee, and I think it would be helpful to staff in reviewing and bringing forth recommendations.
We absolutely agree, and they will be involved.
And, before I get to Amelia Stacy, let me just say, years ago, the process improvement team did a white paper, on an analysis of it, and the pre-submittals was actually one of the recommendations that came out of there. But process, you got some very good minds and expertise. The outside set of eyes looking, good idea. Amelia.
Yes, I was really impressed with what you've done. I keep looking back at the title, which came from city manager, because you do not hear, long ago, one of the first things you hear is complaint. Permitting, stormwater takes forever, and that discourages people from continuing doing business. But you have made it really smooth and follow it easily. And you're going to have it on the website so people can go and say, we're going to look at the permit stats. So thank you for doing all the work you're doing.
Good, Josh.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Warren, Ms. Burkhold, thank you very much. I just also wanted to, since they were sitting here in the gallery, I wanted to recognize your DSC director, Seth Edwards, and Scott Steen from inspections. It takes a village to do all this stuff, and it's complicated. It's fast-paced, and it's gotten even more fast-paced because of the requirements that came down from the state. You guys did a wonderful job pivoting into a more streamlined process, and not to mention you got the 11 of us asking you questions every other day about different things that are happening in our district, and y'all are extremely responsive and professional, so thank you very much.
Once again, kudos, and once again, ever since I've been on council, that's a couple decades now, permits has always been a topic of discussion. And a lot of the frustrations were that, people would submit something, they get a list of stuff to do, they send it in, then they get another new list of stuff to do. How can we kind of fix that into a more, but once again, from what I understand, a lot of the project engineers and architects that submit stuff, they want you guys to do the work.
Exactly.
I think that's part of the problem.
That is.
That's been there. So, how do we address that?
At times, that is part of the problem, for sure. But we talk a lot about that. We've had a lot of conversations about making sure that we're not introducing new comments that don't need to be introduced. But at times, there are things that come through because of a design issue, and that ends up, it may look like a comment that we didn't hit on the first round, but as part of a new design that someone submitted, it created new comments. So it looks like there's new comments that we missed, but that we didn't miss. There's a certain nuance to it, but we do talk about that. We are very focused on making sure that does not happen. And we also do need to meet code. So in the event we do miss something, we do have to address that. And we do have mistakes here and there, for sure.
And let me just, bring up a glimpse into the future. I've been approached by a couple companies that are developing software for AI for the permit process. Is that, on the radar anytime in the future?
Yes, it is. And we're starting to look at that and do some specific reviews and demos with respect to software programs like that.
I'll tell you what, but overall, Patrick, kudos to this team. And, we're in the right direction. Thank you. All right.
We need to clap for this.
Yes, we permit clapping. That was a groaner, I'll admit it. Thanks, Worth, going to start council discussions and comments. Amelia, what did you do this weekend?
Oh, boy. I wish you all had been there. As you know, we've been working on the neighborhood signs, and this time we did Nick Smith, and it really topped the cake. We had a great audience. We had some of the elders all come out, and to end it, we had Jared Boyd sing, and he's an opera-trained Juilliard grad from Nick Smith. This is what we're talking about. Then I found out that they had a Negro baseball league from that area, which we didn't know. So a lot of information came through. I want to also mention, her name is Ekta Javier. She's from the Minority Business Council. She's president, and she's been coming to each one. So I wasn't sure of pronouncing her name right, so I didn't, but I found out to make sure I could mention her today, because she's been coming representing the Minority Business Council. And of course, we had Josh, because that's his district, and we could explain to them, the district and ask, and of course, our mayor. He came, spoke to them, hugged them. Some of them had never seen a mayor. So he was like a superstar, taking pictures and smiling, all these elderly. And it was raining,
Yeah, it was.
but we had a nice full group. So thank the city for you all supporting this initiative.
Well, yeah,
Next week
a
is
lot of
our seventh.
people that, whether it be Emily Archer, the people, how many,
Yes.
tell all the people that you described, how many people were involved with getting those monuments built?
Oh, we have Emily Asher, we have also Gina. We had, I can't think of all the names right off. We had the contractors. That's what we call each area, the Parks and Rec, for setting up the land and the forum. All of those people really worked. And not only that, Emily King, she's been to both this session and some of the others.
They had media, communications set things up.
Yes.
Yeah. Public Works Real Estate got the rights of entry.
Yeah. You'd be surprised, Patrick, the many moving parts it took to get this going. It seems like a simple thing, but I'll tell you what, there were a lot of hands, on the clay that formed this. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Cash, did you have something?
Sure.
So what's going on in what district are you?
Yes, thank you, District 7.
Okay.
So just wanted to say hello, but I really was talking to Councilwoman Henley, just saying hi to her. But you put me on the spot, so I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Anyway, so that's council comments.
Okay. Barbara.
This staff report for council member sponsored events, I would just like some clarification of when is it an event that is only allowed 4 times a calendar year, and when is it something else? Just to be right at the point, I want to know if it's going to mean I can't have my monthly forums anymore. I've been doing that for 30 years and I didn't know that it was a problem, so.
So I think the cap is for staff presentations, right? So that is for staff to come, like for example, if the item that Kathy Warren gave today, if a councilmember wanted that in their forum for one of their town halls, they'll be allowed to do that 4 times, basically 1 per quarter or 4 times per year. So if you're doing your monthly forum, Ms. Henley, just give the public an update where typically you ask staff for information and you're giving that. I don't see that being a prohibition for you to do that. I think basically the council, what I heard from the retreat was they wanted to put a cap on the amount of staff that comes to give a presentation on particular issues. But if you want to have a monthly forum, if you want to use a city facility 12 times a year, 15 times a year, that's okay. It's just the cap is for staff presentations to present to the public and dialogue with the public on city-related items.
Okay, so it's all right if I continue to have my monthly forums in a city building? Okay, I couldn't tell exactly what we were talking about when it was some of the wording, but I just wanted to clarify it. So this just means as long as I'm just presenting information, I'm good. But if I ask a staffed person to come and present, that counts as one of the 4.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I hope we're not doing something that's going to limit our ability to inform the public, because I think that's one of the most important things we do. And the information has to be accurate. And sometimes it's best to ask the staff person to double check it. So I'm a little nervous about this. But because like I say, I think one of the most important things we do is keep our public involved and keep our public informed and make them want to know what's going on in the city and not put roadblocks. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit, and I'm still not sure if this is the right answer. Because sometimes it just might take more than 4 times over the year to explain. We have so much going on, and especially in a district like District 2 that has so many things going on, it just sometimes seems to me important to make sure I'm giving the right information, and that takes the appropriate staff person. But I'll fumble along and do the best I can and try not to make any mistakes.
Now, let me just say this, Barbara, once again, I think, you always got to think about the genesis of, what we're trying to do. And, with 10 districts, people having multiple engagements and bringing the staff out. And don't forget, we got 10 people that are putting, demands on staff, and usually public safety, finance, and, things are the big ones. Now, maybe another kind of solution is, because a couple times I did joint district things, coming together, because Josh and Amelia's districts, have some overlap, in terms of what's going around. So it's the idea of just being efficient. But yeah, I'll tell you, another valuable tool for people, they still got the precinct CACs that they do.
Yes, sir.
And if you go to those things, a lot of times you'll have fire, EMS, Health and Human Services. And, that's another great avenue, for, the public to take care of. And they find out all the crime stats in their districts and things of that nature. So I think that's the, and, I'm not sure about how the format, wound up. Each precinct, each precinct, does it. And that way you find out what's going on right in your own thing.
If you do combine, it only counts as a half of a meeting.
Yeah, I think that might be, kind of a toll to do that.
Yeah, well, most of the other districts are more compact and are similar. But when you've got a district like District 2, that's almost half of the area of the city, it's very diverse and very spread out, and we have a lot of different things. And so now if a staff person shows up and I haven't invited them, it doesn't account as one of my 4, does it? Okay.
No.
Especially if you took them to lunch that morning.
That's it, we wanna know.
I can't support this because I think it's limiting things in a way we don't need to, but I'll try to conform to what it requires.
Okay,
We
thank
talked about it at the retreat.
you. Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Okay,
Agenda. Okay, ordinances and resolutions. Any comments?
So on,
I have a question. On item 3, this curfew for unaccompanied minors, it's had very little public exposure, discussion. When is it going to take effect? I don't want one of our young folks to be arrested for being outside before, after 10 o'clock and they didn't know about it. Because, I know we talked about this in a couple of little discussions, but I don't know that there's been a lot of public discussion about doing this. And if it takes effect immediately, I really hope these young people are going to have some time to know that the curfew is 10 o'clock and not 11 o'clock, so they don't get in trouble for something they didn't know about.
So there was a briefing on it last year, and then council asked to do a real show, but that was with the stakeholders of the resort area and the business community as well. And then we did the public briefing 2 weeks ago on this matter, and it's presented before council now. There'll be public comment today. If council wants to, they can defer the effective date for 30 days from now. We were planning to put out tremendous amount of information via our communications team to let the public know about it. And just note there are a tremendous amount of exceptions as well, right? So if a young adult that's unaccompanied, remember this is an unaccompanied minor, if a young adult is working, going to a religious activity, going to a First Amendment protest, and a various of other emergencies like medical emergencies or family emergencies, there's an exception for them in those situations for the curfew. But there are a lot of carve outs there as well. So it really is for unaccompanied minors that don't have a reason to be out beyond 10 o'clock.
Well, if we do the 30 days, that still puts us right into March, and, you know, we'll get us ready for the April season. So that might be prudent. Let's go Stacy and Josh.
My understanding was that they're not being arrested, they're being detained, and their parents are being notified to come pick them up. So
Yep.
it's not like they're gonna be
Yep.
thrown in jail.
And typically how this works as well is typically a warning as well, right? It's not the police are not necessarily in the business of arresting folks for curfew violations unless it's absolutely necessary to keep a young adult safe or to keep them from doing harm to the public as well.
Hey, Josh.
Thank you, Mayor. On this topic, I've seen so much misinformation out there about this, and it's really a shame. Because we really need to be educating people on these exceptions, like you were talking about, because somebody came to me a couple weeks ago and said, well, what if I'm attending a concert at the Dome or the amphitheater and it lets out at 10 and they got to drive home and they're unaccompanied. I mean, just exception number 3, attendance at a specified engagement or performance, religious services, any assembly, any First Amendment activity, interstate travel. I mean, the point is, like you made, if you don't have any reason to be out, then you don't need to be out. But and there are a laundry list of exceptions that I think do a really good job of capturing even all types of activity that somebody might legitimately and reasonably be out.
Yeah, would it be
Do we want to
worth,
say?
okay,
Do we
Rosemary.
want to just say to implement it within 30, at the end of, in
at the
30
end of
days from
30.
now?
Yeah.
So we've got to give a 30-day time frame before it goes into effect.
Get the information out.
Thank you.
Would it be worthwhile to put out a blurb to have the schools, spread this out to?
Yeah, we plan to. We've been coming up with a communication plan where we plan to engage the public.
There we go. There we go. Okay.
And that worth,
It's okay. Stacy, do you have something?
worthless.
I'm sorry.
I have an issue with our resolution number 4 on the signage. I don't know that the resolution that as it's been put forth is informative enough or explicit enough in describing what we're trying to accomplish. Specifically, I think it doesn't really define what election day means. Is it the actual day of the election or early voting? I just think it causes confusion. We talk about no more, that signs can be put out on city property no larger than 4x4, but it doesn't talk about how many. And I don't know that we've come to a resolution, but for somebody to put up, 100 4x4 signs, I don't think that would be the intention of anyone at the table to allow that. I don't know that we clarified that, but I think we should. And the other thing I think it should be clarified is that we were going to talk to the schools and get their buy-in also on it. And I think it would be better to defer this resolution until we've coordinated with the schools so that we can incorporate that into the resolutions to make it clear that, whereas the schools have adopted a policy also, so that we're not coming back and regurgitating this or clarifying it later. And I don't think there's any real hurry to get it done today. I would just like to see that resolution be a little clearer on those specific items.
Michael, you have a comment on this?
Well, I think the city manager was gonna respond, but the only thing that I would say is that I agree basically with everything that you said. I would have a question related to the upcoming referendum election and when early voting starts in March. So I agree with you. I don't know that it's as urgent as approving it today, but then on the other hand, Councilman Cummings, working backwards, I actually think maybe it is important that we do it today, because if we would wait until the first meeting in March, that we're basically on the election.
I'll just say that it's not clear. When does election day start? Is the day of the election, or is it early voting? And to your point, that, yeah, that's coming upon us, but it's unclear which one's meant.
Patrick?
So, Mr. Mayor, I'll speak on the school-specific item. Daniel can clarify the other items. But as it relates to the schools policy, from talking to the superintendent, is that they only allow signs up the day of election. And they said if the council adopts this resolution, they'll mirror whatever we decide, right? So if we allow, I think we're proposing here to put up signs 6 p.m. the day prior to the election. They'll move their policy to that as well. If the council adopts a 4x4, then they'll move to a 4x4 standard as well. Then they'll explain about the number of signs and the other information you asked.
Sure. So this resolution informs another document, Administrative Directive 3.01. And that document can be more prescriptive on date of election means, the second Tuesday in November, followed by the first Monday, or we can say no more than 100 signs on site, or we could say the other more granular pieces, but this sort of presents the guide rails, right? So the manager's not going to go outside of the bounds of this, but we can flesh out those more granular pieces in that document. And the document is posted on the city website. It's what's shared with all the campaigns. So I don't think you need this to be perfect if you want us to fine tune the pieces that were discussed.
But yeah, so it would be no harm just moving into that.
Defer to the council how you want to do it. I'm just saying that this document doesn't need to be as pinned down if you're okay with the guardrails, and then the manager can report out as he updates that administrative directive, which is going to be the thing that regulates the actual premises.
The other thing about what Michael said, if we got a referendum coming up.
That is particularly important about number 2, which relates to the Office of the Voter Registrar.
Okay.
And I think it is clear that it's only the day of, starting the night before of the election, not early voting. Early voting is not going to be any signs, which is only at the Voters Registrar's office and satellites. And there's not going to be any signage there.
Yeah, Michael?
And I would just say, I'm thinking back to the experiences that I've observed over the last, I would say 5 years in particular, about the proliferation of the sign garden down there, and then the forts that were built with the signs. I won't use its official name, but the forts that were built with the signs, and the feedback that I received from people at the early voting locations. And I've heard from people I really respect and admire about their perspectives here and seeking clarification. And I think it's important that we consider those perspectives. And under almost any other circumstance, I would be completely personally supportive of a deferral in that instance, or a delay. But we do have an election coming up in the beginning of March. And my preference, this is just me, my preference would be, this would be a great opportunity for us to test out the policy. And if there are areas that we need to further refine or align with our goals based on the feedback we receive from the community, that would be perfectly positioned as we would approach the fall and the more robust election and all the signs. So my preference would be to adopt the policy, if it needs refinement, we would have an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that's a good, we could actually field test it, and then we could always redefine it. Okay, Josh?
I'm sorry, Mayor, just one really quick question, because I know the number of signs was just discussed, and my recollection was you can't limit the number of signs for any one particular candidate, because that's content-based regulation of speech and political speech, which we can't do. But can we? I think it might be a bad idea for us to say a total number of signs, for fear that somebody just comes in. Say we call it 100 signs, and somebody just comes in with 100 signs, and you can't do anything about that.
So you are correct that we would only regulate the total number number, irrespective of the content of the signs. But I think that has somewhat of a built-in governor because you're only doing it from 6 p.m. and then the day of election, so I'm not sure about the investment. So if we said 10 on premises, like, we'll field test that piece and see if we sort of run up into like a real constraint there, or it's just not fiscally responsible for them to put up more, I guess, because there's so limited time period.
Yeah, I concur with Michael to make this kind of a work in progress. And this is gonna be kind of a micro election, but in a lot of ways in terms of things on the ballot and everything. And, we could always adapt accordingly. So are we okay with keeping it on? Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
now what?
Just a quick statement on that, but so this, if we adopt this tonight, it states in here, no signs during early voting, which from what I understand would be March 6th. So this doesn't really affect anything. In fact, no signs would be out at the new voter registration building, which is going to open soon. So we have several more sessions to talk about this if there's any problems, or much less have this as a, so I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the important thing is, from the issues that I brought up, is defining the day of the election day. If we do that, then as Worth just said, we don't have an issue going forward. And if the schools have the same policy, then we can defer to that. So I'd be fine doing that. I just wanted to bring that up so that.
No, it was a good discussion. Yeah, okay, Dana?
I think you back into that by the location. So the voter registrar has that 45-day window, and we've addressed that in paragraph 2. In paragraph 3, you have the satellite voting locations, which are 14 days. And so we've addressed them also. So then the only thing you're left with is the polling locations that are open on election day.
Okay. Rosemary? What else?
So the next in number is number 5, under ordinances to establish a Virginia Beach Sports District. And I've talked to a number of you all, and I am also a co-sponsor of this, and I support this, but I do think that more discussion with the community, as we have heard in our emails, is necessary. And so I asked if we could defer this. I'm going to ask for 60 days because it could take, 2, 3, 4 weeks to get this on, for example, the Resort Advisory Commission agenda, or set up some meetings. So defer to a definite date, I believe, Amanda, of April 21st would be 60 days or so from today, or the second formal session in April.
Anybody object to that?
Let's say April 21st.
No, I don't object. I think it's important that we make certain that everybody understands what we're doing, and we have to have the opportunity for everybody to come together and get comfortable with what we're doing. Because I want this to be a very positive step for us in trying to reach our goal of being the sports capital of the East Coast. And of course, we want to include all these things. So as long as we've got a definite date, I think that's okay.
So do we want to say April 21st or 60 days?
Mayor. Mayor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm with you, Councilman Worth, and I thank you for wanting to include the public on this discussion. It's very important. Councilwoman Henley had mentioned that as long as we have a date set, and let me speak as a newbie to council, as a newbie to my passion for Virginia Beach sports tourism is near and dear to my heart, not because it was my driving force for me to be on council. It became that because I'm in the community, and it was the community that impressed that upon me, that they want to be classified as a sports tourism destination spot, not just for their kids, but for that's how we receive a lot of our income, as being a tourist destination spot. And Princess Anne Corridor is what people call it now. But Chuck Thornton and I had a long, in-depth conversation, and he does a lot to put heads in beds, people in our hotels. And so his kids, his youth are impressing upon me. So this can't be something that we push off for 60 days and then does nothing because time elapsed and now we have a newer issue that takes precedence over this. This is my only caveat that I would put in, that in 60 days, a lot could happen. And then we've forgotten about classifying this as, if the public wants to call it, the sports destination spot, or how we classified it or coined it here, Virginia Beach Sports District. I just hope that in 60 days that we don't have another fire to put out and this becomes on the back burner, because then that's going to be a problem for, and I'm going to say this and I'm done. This is my concern about Enrico taking, and I'm going to bring it up again, the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame, because we don't know what identity to follow. Are we business, industrial? Are we sports tourism? And Enrico and other cities are just taking it while we're finding out our identity. So our identity is sports tourism. We've got natural talent, we've got celebrities here, and we're missing the mark when we tell the celebrities that they don't matter, or the kids who are in Tidewater Swim that they don't matter. They matter, and this is why it's called Virginia Beach Sports District.
Okay, Cash, we're not telling anybody that they don't matter. We are not doing that, okay? And let me just say this, we are putting this on a date certain. Nothing else is gonna deviate that. We have to deal with multiple issues all the time. This is a priority. And by, having a deferral with the date certain, I give you my guarantee, you don't have nothing to worry about. Okay, Amelia?
Yes, and that is something I was going to say too, because the people who came to us talking about having that deferral was looking at other areas within the city that also have sports, like the sports center, which is different to what's at the Princess Anne complex. So they're just asking, we have not had an input in it. So that's why it's important that Council Remy say, let's defer so that it is inclusive. We bring them on. It's nothing about not having it. So that is important for you, for you to understand. I know your passion, and we all look forward to this, but we don't want to leave anybody out.
It's a bit, Cash, it's just a better informed public. And then, once again, getting input and everything from a lot of other folks, but also educating people about what we're about. And that would take care of a lot of the concerns you're having. And believe me, we figured out, hey, listen, we shut an arena down and we're going in this direction. And that's going to be the direction that's going to take us to the next level.
So is there anything else under ordinances and resolutions? Planning? Planning, number one, David and Robin Parker, District 5, I'm okay with that. We have no speakers on anything. Number 2, Cardinal Sign, District 4.
Yep, that's fine.
Number 3, Matthew Scornavacci, District 5, I'm fine with that. Number 4, Star of the Sea Catholic Church, District 5, I'm okay. Number 5, Patrick and Joey Pastor, District 6.
Consent, please. Thank you.
Number 6, Vivi Patel, LLC, District 6.
Very excited about this. Yes, consent, please.
Number 7, The Gyms, District 6.
So for this, I'd ask for a second deferral tonight for item number 7 to March 17. We want to have a community meeting with the applicant to go through the application, and we should be ready to vote on March 17th. I can be ready to recommend one thing or another.
Number 8 is Zakia Walcott, District 9.
Good for consent, thank you.
And that's it.
Okey-dokey. All right, at this point, the chair will entertain a motion to recess into a closed session pursuant to the exemptions from the open meetings allowed by section 2.23711A Code of Virginia, as amended for the following purposes. Legal matters, consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation, where such consultation or briefing in an open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body pursuant to section 2.23711A7. And that is the City of Virginia Beach versus LDSM et al. Publicly held property, discussion or consideration of acquisition of real property for public purpose or disposition of publicly held property, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to section 2.23711A3, District 2, District 5, District 6. Public contract, discussion or award of public contract involving the expenditure of public funds and discussion of terms or scope of such contract, where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or the negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to section 2.23711A29, and that would be the aquarium moratorium of agreement. And then finally, personnel matters, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body pursuant to section 2.23711A1, and that would be council appointments for boards, commissions, authorities, agencies, and appointees. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All righty.
Councilmember Lucci.
Aye.
Councilmember Cummings.
Aye.
Councilmember Henley. Councilmember Hutchinson's absent. Councilmember Jackson Green.
Aye.
Councilmember Remick.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross Hammond.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Schulman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wilson.
Aye.
Mayor Dyer.
Aye.
10-0.
Okay, we are recessed into closed. Welcome all. Warmed up a little bit, but we'll keep on going here. I'm going to call this to order, and if you're willing and able, please stand for the invocation. Heavenly Father, you are always with us. Be with us this evening as we consider the affairs of our great city. Give us the patience to listen, the wisdom to decide, and the strength to act. Amen. And may ask for a moment of silence for all of those who paid the ultimate price, defending our city and our nation. Thank you, and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. And Madam Clerk, do we have a roll call?
Yes, Your Honor. All present excluding Councilmember Hutchison, and I believe I see Councilmember Ross Hammond walking in now. So all present excluding Councilmember Hutchison.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion for the certification of the closed session?
So moved.
All righty.
We need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead. The vote is open.
All righty.
Councilmember Ross Hammond, may I have your vote, please? Yes. I need you to press the button, please. Thank you. By a vote of 10-0, you certify the closed session to be in accordance with the motion to recess.
All right, do I have a motion for the approval of the informal and formal sessions of February 3rd, 2026, and the special formal session of February 10th, 2026?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
The vote is open. By a vote of 10-0, I'm sorry, 9-0. Abstain. Vice Mayor Wilson abstaining. You have approved the minutes as submitted.
And I'm abstaining because I was not present for the February 3rd meeting.
Thank you. So are you voting yes for February 10th then?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, this is a part of the our formal session where we honor some people who really deserve honor. Captain Abizzato, will you please join us? Okay, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
I tell you, before we do this, we just want to say what a proud heritage, what a proud relationship that we have with our military right here in Virginia Beach. We often say that the Navy and their family members are part of the DNA of the city that makes our nation straight. But be assured that every serving member and every retiree is a vital part of what makes us the great city of Virginia Beach. So at this point, you know, it's bittersweet, Josh. We've had a great relationship, not only myself, but with you in the city, with the air show and all the magnificent things you have done to build that bridge of community. And you're going to be missed, but once again, I hope that you continue the tradition of former commanding officers and find a home in Virginia Beach when you're finished. So at this point, it is my privilege. Whereas Captain Joshua Anthony Apizzato, call sign Noodle, I never called you that, okay? Hailing from our great Navy community in the city of Alameda, California, proudly graduated in 2000 from the University of Notre Dame, having earned degrees in both history and Spanish literature, and having at the same time received his commission in the United States Navy, and who, having earned his wings of gold as a Navy flight officer in 2002, when he was assigned to Strike Fighter Squadron 4-1, the world-famous Black Aces, and which he twice deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, including the inaugural combat cruise of FA-18F Rhinos aboard the USS Nimitz CVN-68. And whereas in 2006, Captain Apizzato was selected to attend the Navy's venerable Flight Weapons School, known to the Navy and moviegoers, Top Gun, where he subsequently retained as a Top Gun instructor. He then returned to the fleet in 2009, making combat deployments with Strike Fighter Squadron 2-2 and Strike Fighter Squadron 154. The Black Knights rule, in support of operations Enduring Freedom and New Dawn, after which he held command at sea as Strike Fighter Squadron 4-1, during which he expertly led the Black Aces on the 2018-19 around-the-world combat cruise aboard the USS John C. Stennis, CVN-74, supporting Operation Freedom Sentinel and Inherent Resolve. Whereas Captain Apizzato has served as the Air Operations Officer aboard the USS George Washington, CVN-73, the Strike Fighter Community Detailer at Navy Personnel Command, and the Safety Officer at Commander, Naval Air Force Atlantic, and earned a Master of Arts degree in Defense and Strategic Studies at the Naval War College. Whereas, in the midst of accumulating more than 3,000 flight hours and 857 arrested landings in the FA-18 including 103 combat missions, thus earning 2 meritorious service medals and multiple strike flight air medals, Navy commendation medals, and other unit campaign and service awards. He found the time in 2016 to craft a sufficient, intriguing profile that ultimately won the affection and hand of marriage of the former Miss Jill Daigle of Frisco, California, who together with Captain Abizato and their beloved Cavapool Parker have graciously opened the haunted mansion known as the Bell House to friends far and wide. Whereas since his assignment as executive officer in February 2023 and continuing through his tenure as NAS Oceania's commanding officer, which began on August 9th in 2024, he vigorously fought to improve the critical infrastructure and the quality of life at the 3 bases under his command, while at the same time working to profoundly deepen the relationship between NAS Oceana and the city of Virginia Beach, especially through the intricate Navy-City collaboration necessary to produce 3 hugely successful air shows. Whereas, having created an enduring legacy, which is best exemplified by his frequent description of NAS Oceana and the city of Virginia Beach, is the land of pleasant living. Captain Abizato will be relinquishing command of Naval Air Station on February 19, 2026, but who will always be known to exemplify the finest traditions of the U.S. Navy as an officer, a gentleman, a gallant warfighter, and a friend. Therefore, now be it resolved that the City of Virginia Beach City Council pauses in its deliberations to recognize Captain Joshua Noodle Apizato, to thank him for his meritorious service to our country and our city. And be it resolved that all citizens recognize Captain Apizato's exemplary military service on this day, Captain Joshua Noodle Apizato Day, given by the entire City Council. Thank you, and God bless you, Josh. Anybody else want to come down? Come down, folks. The shameless photo opportunities. Always be Bobby D. Noodle. Okay. Perfect. Look at her. All right, and Josh, please, with your wife by your side, please say a few words. Okay. Hey, we got the long walk around, we got our steps in.
Take your time, sir. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, as you mentioned, I grew up in Alameda, California, and my father was the mayor of Alameda which at the time when I was younger had a large naval air station attached to it and was a beautiful resort community, much like the city of Virginia Beach. Not as big as Virginia Beach, but very similar. So it is not lost on me with my father's service as a mayor, the honor that is conveyed by a proclamation from the City Council and from the City of Virginia Beach. So for that, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Wilson, members of the City Council, I thank you from the bottom of my heart and with every fiber of my being for this proclamation, this recognition. It's a huge honor, and thank you. Serving as a commanding officer at Naval Air Station Oceana has been the honor of my 26-year naval career. But being a part of this community has been the privilege of a lifetime. My wife and I, this is our first tour in Virginia Beach at NAS Oceana. I've been stationed primarily on the West Coast. And we always wondered when we were stationed on the West Coast, why does everybody who has been stationed at Oceana in Virginia Beach, why do they fight so hard? Why do they desire so strongly to come back to Oceana? And it wasn't until we checked in 3 years ago that we finally understood why people wanted to be here so badly and enjoyed it so much. Working with the city has truly been a privilege. Operating a large master jet base, home to the strike arm of the fleet, the reason that aircraft carriers exist, those F-18s, operating that base in the middle of the largest city in the Commonwealth takes a lot of work and takes a lot of cooperation, but we make it work together as a community. And that I think is what has impressed me most. I've got close relationship with the chief of police, with the fire chief, with the school district, not only in Virginia Beach, but also in Chesapeake. And it just works. We could not pull off an air show where we host 300,000 people a year without the steadfast and lockstep support of the city of Virginia Beach. So with that, Mr. Mayor, again, thank you all, Vice Mayor Wilson, members of the City Council, thank you for this tremendous honor. I will treasure it always. And as I like to say, in addition to being the land of pleasant living, NAS Oceana and the city of Virginia Beach, no better base, no better place. It's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you, and fly Navy.
And thank you, and Josh and your wonderful wife. We get to know each other over the years, and like I said, parting is sweet sorrow. But we know it's part of your career. But once again, if you ever do come back, it would be great. But if I can just say a point of privilege, speaking as a Marine who served in the Marine Air Squadron back in 68 to 72. In the article today on Robert Duvall, they had a picture of him from the Great Santini in front of one of the Phantoms that I used to work on back in the day. And just having, what a pleasure and honor it's been for a Marine corporal to work with folks like you and the seamless continuum of excellence and leadership that I have been at NAS Oceana since I've been involved. I say thank you. I say God bless you, Godspeed, and by all means, stay in touch. Thank you.
Will do, sir. Fly Navy, Semper Fi.
You got it. Okay, next up, we have another special one, and we're going to ask the school crossing guards to come on up. And I'm going to ask my dear friend Michael Bellucci to go ahead and read a proclamation honoring you. Come. And here comes some of the folks that they work with, Chief Newdigate and his staff. Michael.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome all of you to your City Hall, to our City Hall. Before I read this proclamation, if I could just thank the Mayor for the opportunity to do so, and just say that I really consider it a special privilege because you perform one of the most important, essential, and necessary public service jobs that exists. And if I could just say as a point of personal privilege, every time I drive to work or drive around town and I see you all with the care and professionalism that you bring to your role and the level of responsibility that you take, I see it every day. It brings a smile to my face, and you're very friendly with all the cars and especially with the young people you serve. So it's a great honor to read this proclamation and to have you all here tonight. Thank you. Whereas school crossing guards play a vital role in keeping children safe on their way to and from school and must have a deep sense of responsibility, a great deal of character, and an excellent relationship with children. And whereas school crossing guards support the Virginia Beach Police Department with community safety and are guardians of the crosswalk, and whereas school crossing guards make drivers more aware of pedestrians, and the guards guide children in learning the best practices for walking, cycling, and rolling near roadways. And whereas school crossing guards are dedicated individuals who are on duty each school day, rain or shine, or snow, maybe not snow, I added that, greeting students, parents, and staff. And whereas the city of Virginia Beach is proud of its school crossing guards and commends them highly for their commitment to the safety and well-being of Virginia Beach children. And whereas the safety and security of young people is a top priority for Virginia Beach, and our city's hardworking school crossing guards deserve our heartfelt gratitude for your service to our community. And whereas since 2014, the Virginia Department of Transportation has designated a date in February for the recognition of school crossing guards. Now therefore, Robert M. Bobby Dyer, Mayor of the City of Virginia Beach, do hereby proclaim February 17th, 2026 as School Crossing Guard Appreciation Day in the City of Virginia Beach, and he calls upon all citizens of the City of Virginia Beach to show our support for the dedicated crossing guards serving our city, and encourages all motorists to be especially careful when driving near schools. Thank you very much for your service and congratulations.
Hi, everybody. Let me hop in here. Who am I giving this to? Mayor? That's my 1, 2, 3. Beautiful paparazzi. Thank you. Okay, we're going to ask Chief Newbigate to say a few words on your behalf. Thank you all. Yes, sir.
Folks, 26.
Oh, it's all good. No, you stand behind me? Come on, it's all good.
Okay, Chief.
Mayor, members of council, we really just want to take an opportunity to thank you for the recognition. I work with a lot of great men and women. They are true heroes. But when we talk about unsung heroes that truly contribute to the public safety mission for the city of Virginia Beach, who more than those that take care of our children and make sure that they get there safely every day? And I think, Councilmember Bellucci, you mentioned it. We see them every morning when we're driving in our vehicles. It's cold out, it's rainy, but they are out there sacrificing for the betterment of our city and our youth, and we can't thank them enough. So thank you for acknowledging them, and thank you all for everything that you do for us. And when we talk about partnership and public safety, you are one of our great partners. Thank you.
And, let me say this on behalf of the council. We pride ourselves as being probably one of the, if not the most safest city in this great nation. And it's a lot of moving parts of public safety. You got police, fire, EMS, you got the sheriff, you got 911. but you are very much a part of what makes us that safe city when you think of it. Never, please realize how important that you are, just in terms of safety and, quite frankly, the lives you may save and, things of that nature. And I think Michael brought up, it doesn't, you folks are like, the post office folks, neither rain or sleet or snow or anything is going to stop you for what you're doing. And that takes sacrifice. It takes commitment. So on behalf of the council, I say sincere thanks. Thank you and God bless you. And thank you for keep on doing what you're doing. You do it so great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you all.
I tell you what, if we don't mind, we got some Boy Scouts. Hey, come on down. Hey, this is proclamation time. Or mayor's presentations. Yeah, come on up and introduce yourself and your troop.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Landry Guillory, Assistant Scoutmaster with Troop 791. We appreciate the opportunity to have the boys here tonight. They're working on their citizenship and the community merit badge. So everything being discussed tonight is building our future citizens for this community and our nation. So thank you for the opportunity.
It's great looking at our future. And what I would like you to do, one at a time, come up and say your name, and then come up and I'm going to give you a city pin.
Hello, my name is Julian Guillory, and I am in Troop 791. I'm honored to be here tonight.
And I'm honored to have you. Come on over. There you go. You're quite welcome.
Hi, my name's Sebastian Castisu. I'm in Troop 791.
Come on up.
I'm Carter Mertig, and I'm also in Troop 791 here for my one of my merit badges.
Good. Welcome.
Logan H. Huey of Troop 791.
Hey, come on up.
Hi, I'm Vihan Putnuri.
There you go.
From Troop 791. I'm working for my citizenship in the community merit badge, and I'm honored to be here.
Oh, great.
I'm Nathaniel Sladky, and I'm honored to be here.
Oh, great. There you go.
I'm Dash Walker. I'm in Troop 791, and I'm honored to be here.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, my name is Dean Slacky. I'm from Troop 791, and I'm honored to be here.
Oh, thank you.
My name is Joseph Buck from Troop 791. Glad to be here.
My name is Tony Pichet Chayagun. I'm in Troop 791, and it is an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you. And Scoutmaster, we got one of these for you too. Yep. Thank you for your time and taking care of these guys. Really. You got it. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great looking at our future. And let me just say, before I was a jarhead, I was a Cub Scout and a Boy Scout. So, I tell you what, the future is bright. Thank you. God bless you. And thanks for being here. Oh, yeah. Another one of these photo ops. Yeah, right. Yeah, let me squeeze in here.
He can hide in the back.
Yeah, I can. There we go.
All right, we go ready. 1, 2, 3. Stand by. You got to turn the camera on. There you go. All right, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank God you don't have those old flash bulbs when that was their age. Oh. When, Okay, he's back. Okay, and I'll tell you, isn't it nice that Virginia Beach gets to honor so many people? This is what makes us the great city we are. Thank you all. Okay, moving along to a public hearing. I'm going to have a public hearing for dark fiber lease agreement. Pursuant to Virginia Code 15-2, 1813, the Virginia Beach City Council will hold a public hearing to obtain public comment regarding a proposed lease of 2 strands of city-owned fiber optic cable at Lumos Telephone LLC in the form of dark fiber. Any speakers?
No speaker, sir.
Okay, at this point, we're moving on to the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under ordinances and resolutions, number 1 is the ordinance to authorize the acquisition of property in fee simple and acquisition of temporary and permanent easements either by agreement or condemnation. Ray Lindbrook Landing Sidewalk Improvements Project CIP 100-423.112. Number 2 is the ordinance to amend City Code Section 21-230, Ray, inclusion of South Woodhouse Road in the traffic calming program. Number 3 is the ordinance to amend City Code Section 23.2, Ray, curfew for unaccompanied minors, and that is going not to be implemented for 30 days. Number 4 is the resolution to provide direction to the city manager, Ray, signage on public property requested by City Council. Number 5 is a resolution to establish a Virginia Beach Sports District and authorize the city manager to take actions to support, and that's requested by Bear Dyer and the council members, Henley, Jackson, Green, Remick, and Shulman, and that is to be deferred until April 21st. Number 6 is the ordinance to authorize the city manager to execute on agreement with the school board and appropriate miscellaneous revenue, Ray, the use of school buses during the National High School Coaches Association Senior Nationals. Number 7 is the ordinance to amend the FY 2025-26 capital improvement program for flood protection to the Eastern Shore Drive projects. Number 8 is the ordinance to appropriate $40,000 from the fund balance of the Commonwealth Attorney's Forfeited Assets Special Revenue Fund to the FY 2025-26 Commonwealth Attorney Operating Budget, Ray, remodel existing office space. Number 9 is the ordinance to accept and appropriate $2,953,209 in surplus Regional Surface Transportation Program funds to capital projects. Number 1057, Centerville Turnpike Phase 2, Ray, roadway improvements. Number 10 is the ordinance to accept and appropriate $24,346.47 from the Commonwealth's Office of Emergency Medical Services to the FY 2025-26 Department of Emergency Medical Services operating budget. It authorized a 50% in-kind grant match, Ray, for portable ventilators and accessories. Number 11 is the ordinance to transfer $1 million within the FY 2025-26 capital improvement program from capital projects 100-552, the Western Branch Lynn Haven River Maintenance Dredging to capital project 100-345, Rudy Inlet Outer Channel Maintenance Dredging, Ray, dredging.
I open a public hearing on planning.
Number 1 is the David and Robin Parker for a street closure, Ray, approximately 3,750 square feet of Arctic Avenue, adjacent to 300 Winston-Salem Avenue, and that is in District 5. Number 2 is the Cardinal Sign Corporation, VS Corp. Inc., for an alternative compliance replacing existing monument sign at the 4616 Virginia Beach Boulevard, and that is District 4. Number 3 is the Matthews Scornavici for a modification of conditions to a change in non-conforming, Ray, modify previously approved concept plan renderings and elevations for existing staircase and future handicap accessible ramp at 514 9th Street, and that is in District 5. Number 6 is Star of the Sea Public Catholic Church and Catholic Diocese of Richmond, Catholic Diocese of Richmond for a modification of conditions to a conditions of the permit rate commercial church parking lot at 1500 Pacific Avenue, and that's in District 5. Number 5 is Patrick and Joy Patzer for a conditional change of zoning from O2 Office District to conditional B2 Community Business District, Ray Retail Store at 901 First Colonial Road, and that's District 6. Number 6 is Bivy Fidel LLC, Laskin Road Associates LP for conditional use permit, Ray Indoor Recreation Facilities at 941 Laskin Road, and that's in District 6. Number 7 is the Gems LLC, Richard D. Goldstein and James P. Goldstein for conditional use permit bulk storage and at 1361 Virginia Beach Boulevard, District 6, and we're going to defer that until March 17th. Number 8 is Zakia Walcott Hoda Investment LLC for a conditional use permit, array assembly use at 5193 Shore Drive, Suite 108, and that is in District 9. Move for approval.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on anything? Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. By a vote of 10 to 0, you have approved the consent agenda as read by Vice Mayor Wilson.
Okay, at this point, any appointments?
We certainly do, Mr. Mayor. We have quite a list. The Advertising Advisory Committee to reappoint Hershad Barat, Justin Beal, Tyler Brown, Meredith Gray. Beaches and Waterways Advisory Commission to appoint Truett Bozich as a high school student member. The Clean Community Commission to reappoint Carlin Gregory, Terry Stevens. Community Criminal Justice Board to reappoint Cal Bain, Wanda Cooper, Stacy Cummings, Indy Rocky Holcomb, Philip Hallowell, Paul Newdigate, Stacy Smith, Colin Stolley, Kay Thomas, Andrew Truitt. The Historic Preservation Commission to appoint John Settle and to appoint Bobby Gribble and Harry Frenzel as of March 1st for those two. Human Rights Commission is to reappoint Virginia Gencock, Melissa Calavarina Zagaria. Open Space Advisory Committee to appoint Richard Holine for representing Parks and Rec. Park and Recs Commission appoint Anvar Miles to represent District 4 and to reappoint Daniel Edwards representing District 7. The Personnel Board to appoint David Nash. The Public Library Board is to appoint Gerald Golden and Anthony Oates. Social Services Advisory Board to appoint Amber Koska. The Stormwater Appeals Board to reappoint Travis Fox and Mark Johnson. The Virginia Beach Cannabis Advisory Task Force to appoint Debbie Lou Haig. The Virginia Beach Community Development Corporation to appoint Jessica Lynn, Matthew Baumgarten. The Wetlands Board to appoint William Surge as a representative alternative member, Jeff Ainsley as a alternative members. The next folks are going to be City Council liaisons. Michael Bellucci, the Agriculture and Advisory Commission, Barbara Henley, the Historic Review Board. David Hutchison, Active Transportation Advisory Committee and the COG Review and Allocation Committee. Cal Cash Jackson Green is the Virginia Beach Cannabis Advisory Task Force. Amelia Ross Hammond for the Virginia Beach Community Development Corporation, and Joshua Schulman is Flood Prevention Bond Ref Oversight Board. Move for approval.
Okay, any discussion? Nay, let's open the vote.
The vote is open. Councilmember Henley, may I have your vote? Thank you. By a vote of 10 to 0, you have appointed those as read by Vice Mayor Wilson.
Okay, thank you all. Okay, at this point, any unfinished business? Any new business? Thank you all. We are adjourned. Keep well, folks. Thank you all for coming.